we include Desert Safari, we include what we call the Cross Dinner, we include Burj Khalifa, we include Dubai City Tour and all. Maybe you are selling that package at 150,000 shillings because right now the dollar is a bit expensive. Then out of it, we say we'll give you 5% commission. You sell the package, we are going to give you, once you give us clients, we give you a 5%. That is 7,500 per person. That is one way you can make money. And how do you market this? Just going and putting stuff on your status. Let me tell you, I will.
I think at this point, we should even be reminding our viewers, number one, you should be calling in live right now. The number is on your screens. Number two, look for a notebook, look for a pen, and the case of it, because you're not getting this anywhere. 7,500, na hii economy. Robert, so okay, and now I have 7,500. The fact that move your package. How else?
How else you can use the summit? COP28, the fact that it's happening in Dubai, you can also sell that information. It may not. Let me say the fact that it's in Dubai. Maybe there are some businesses which are capital intensive, and honestly, I can tell you this one is a capital intensive business.
Oh, yes.
But can we come back home slightly and think, are there future opportunities? Yes, they are there. Like the Africa Climate Summit, let me tell you, if you Googled, last year it happened in Gabon. This year it was in Kenya. Definitely next year it won't be in Kenya, but it will be somewhere else. But there will be so many other opportunities that will be coming. The best aspect of any businessman is ability to sell. So what you should do when you go to the internet, instead of watching pornography, instead of watching, that whatever doesn't help you, the best characteristic of a businessman is being able to sell. So go to the internet, look at all the upcoming summits in Nairobi. Just take the word KICC, Kenyatta International Conference Center. Can you do a very simple thing? Why don't you go give a call to KICC, give us a list of the upcoming international conventions. They will give you a list. Now start preparing. How do you prepare? Once you see the dates and all, number one, you go to the specific websites. Think of enrolling. Because I can assure you, this, as you said, a lot of money is being splashed. One of the ways is through allowances, as I had said earlier. Prepare for those opportunities now, number one, by enrolling onto being an attendee to those conferences. And then number two, you can even prepare, for instance, a guest who is coming. Give them, if you are in Nairobi, these are the businesses these are the places you can tour. Nairobi National Park, the Animal Orphanage, the museum and all. Liaise with a tour company. Liaise with a car hire company. All of them, let them give you a commission or a percentage. And the percentage business is the best that you can ever make money easily using other people's ideas, cars and materials.
Robert, hold that thought. We're due a short break. But remember, you can always call in live. Tunachukua break, so anza kutafuta credit so that when we come back, call in live. Tell us, what do you think is the whole impact of this particular summit, the Africa Climate Summit, and even other kind of summits that will be happening in the future when it comes to business ya Kenya. Design ya kuchase back to call in live and tell us, give your opinion, and even ask Robert some maswali hapa na pale. So stick around for that. And welcome back. And this particular morning, we're discussing matters, the impact of climate change and climate summit, actually, that the Africa Climate Summit, which is ending today, the whole impact it has in matters businesses. This particular week, we've seen different kind of brands out here, exposing themselves and really taking advantage of this particular summit. So how can we really, and business persons, take advantage of this? Nikona Robert Githire, CEO wa Eliza Group. How does it feel with the CEO? CEO?
It's very demanding. Number one is a privilege. Let me say it's a privilege to look on the positive side, but it is very demanding. Because people think that when you run a successful business that you sit back. But let me tell you, there is no single business which is so successful that can run alone, including the biggest business that we know in the country and in the world. So it is not easy. It comes with a lot of responsibilities. And if you are a serious CEO, you never sleep. Like for me, I work 16 hours a day.
Hey.
I wake up at 4, I'll sleep at 9. You have to be really on your toes because you are running. And employees, no matter how good your employees are, they will never be better than you in terms of their output. Hakuna CEO anaweza kuwa akiingia kazini saa 3 na employee saa 1. Employee atakuja 1 week kama 3 days achoke. Yeah, so you have to be on your toes all the time.
Right.
You have to be updated on the trends which are coming up. Number 2, when you're CEO of a successful company, you are the top. When you're at the top, you can only come down. Right. You can never, you either go higher or maintain, but it is very easy to come down. Right. So you have to be really on your toes.
And the reason I was asking you that is because for such a summit that is happening, and CEOs like you, this is a whole opportunity for job creation.
Yes.
Pata wale wa either contracts for short term or even permanent.
Yes.
Kukuwa na watu on board to help you, build your brand out here, so that even when people are walking along KCC for the summit, they can see the brand name up with
Yes.
You really have to also bring on board, people. Yes. How is this playing out for you?
Every summit comes with what we call exhibitions. Even right now when you walk into KICC, there are so many exhibition booths.
Oh, yes.
You just pay in advance the space, and then you prepare your materials. You just get your brochures, you get a very beautiful website, and a lady or two to be there. I'm saying ladies with the reservations. So when you, now during the summit, now you walk around with flyers, business cards, and then you are presenting to different people. Also, when they finish, just approach them and talk to them. Let me tell you, one thing I've realized in my experience in business is that successful people are willing to pull someone up. The problem is the person who is supposed to be pulled up is not prepared. Let me give you an example. On Sunday, I met somebody who told me he knows me. We had a function in my area, Limuru. Then a guy walks to me, says, "Hi, Githire, I know you during campaigns. I gave you my vote and all and all." We talked for a few seconds, and then he told me, by there I do electrical installations. And he gave me his business card. You know what I told him? Oh, by the way, I'm the chairman of the Gio Boys Alumni Association, and on Friday, we were thinking of installing, donating a computer lab to the school. And we were looking for somebody who can do installation for the wiring, then we can bring the computers. Right. What did I do? I told him on Monday, that is yesterday, that is the day before yesterday, go to the school, give me a quotation for that. He got an opportunity like that, and I'm pretty sure we are going to give him a business. So, the preparedness is a very important thing. Number 1, even if you don't have a website, run a very good profile. I meet, that is on social media. I meet people in Nairobi who tell me, by the way, I follow you on social media. Then I'm like, okay, did I ever post something indecent? Because the guy who follows you on social media is a CEO somewhere of a very big company. Then number 2, have a business card. And your business card doesn't have to be so detailed. It just needs to tell us, it's not so hard. What do you do? Just, a social media profile, a business card is a summary of who am I? What do I do? Like for me, I know, as you said, I do business, I do philanthropy, and I do life mentorship, life coach. That's all. That's a summary of who I am. So someone starts thinking, by then along that train, this is the person I can go to. So for the young people, just identify what you are going to do. And don't copy my business. Don't go and start a company because Githire is running a successful one. No, what you are good in. You can even be good in decorations, doing decorations. You can be good in cleaning tiles. Like maybe I'll go into my office and realize this place needs some cleaning. You just present a very good profile. This is what I do. I will call you for a job. So we need to be prepared all the time and have presentability, be it in person, be it in on social media. You have to do that.
Right.
Yes.
And I feel like one other thing that we really need to, even for the youth, is being innovative.
Yes.
When you take a look at how, let's say even in COP27 in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt,
Yes.
how the summit was done, it might again be different in how it's going to be done in Dubs,
Yes.
Dubai, because of technology. So as a businessman, how do you think are the young people innovative enough? How do they really improve when it comes to innovation? To actually ensure that business zao zinaonekana hapa nje.
Let me tell you, I have been to so many schools, more than 500 schools since I started doing school mentorships. And whenever I walked into any school, you would find someone who is very proud because he was position 1 with a D+. Maybe it's a low performing school. And then I always told them, don't compare them with their class. Don't compare yourself with their class. Compare yourself with the Starehes, the Alliance and all. For the young people in business, because there are so many people who are in business, when you go into social media, go to YouTube, for instance, listen about practices of running a successful businesses. They are actually, you can never finish those videos. They are in millions. You can spend millions of hours to watch all the life-changing videos on YouTube. So don't compare. Maybe you are the best in your village, you are the best in your town. Think outside the box by being innovative. And how do you become innovative? You can always, you know, if once you can only think about something that you have seen before. So always go out there. Like number 1, I can give you an example of YouTube. Go and watch YouTube videos which are informative. Number 2, when you're in a business, don't fear. You know, there are people who fear, like for me, checking out my successful competitors, because I'll be like, oh, they took 5,000 people outside the country. For me, I took 50. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not doing well. What you're supposed to do is that don't fear looking out for challenges and even competition, not only from local, don't be local. The good thing about internet is that it is international. You go to the internet, search for what people in different countries are doing in line with in the business we are doing. Let me tell you, for instance, let's take an example of art. You know, art, you just see a simple design and you hear it has sold for millions of dollars. And then you think maybe you're an artist and say, where can I exhibit this? Yeah. You can only get that information from people who are doing it before. Like you see that there's this drawing of Mona Lisa, I guess the most expensive in the world. You now think, what if I exhibit, like in the climate summit, I just go to the Nairobi National Park, take a photo, and then I sit down and draw. These are pencil art of Nairobi National Park. That is how you think outside the box. In comparison, don't compare with your local setup. Your mind has to go international. Think with people. Think like we look at what someone in South Africa in your line of business is doing. Look at someone in Nigeria, what are they doing? Someone in Egypt, someone in Dubai. That way you'll be able to expose your mind and get so many business ideas out there.
And that also means you have access to even global markets out there.
Yes, you do. For instance, let me give an example. Right now, I do get people from the US who tell me, I'm coming to Kenya for a week, and I've checked online, and I've seen you are the most active marketer for the Nairobi National Park. Okay. What do? They just come into our inbox, and they have also checked our reviews, and then we give them a quotation. They pay in advance, and they have never been to Kenya. And then you tell them, okay, no, apart from Nairobi National Park, I can also do a hotel booking for you. I can also pick you up from the airport. You end up getting double business from whatever single they wanted to give. You have to be out there and manage your free time well. Don't worry, if you have an 8 to 5 job, well and good, but you have to manage your extra time well by learning.
Robert, when it comes to some of the summits,
yes,
and even climate change summits,
yes,
either COP or even now this inaugural first ever Africa Summit happening and concluding today, there are always agreements that are made there for climate change.
Yes.
And some of this might have strict standards to maybe even reduce pollution.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the business side, for example, the plastics,
yes,
they really had to ban plastics.
Yes.
It definitely had an impact when it came to walikuwa nauza hizi plastics.
Yes.
Number one, what's your experience in some of this, and what do you think business persons wanafaa moving forward,
Yes.
they cope with all that?
Every bad experience happening or every bad thing happening has a positive side. Like the main aim of the Africa Climate Summit is for the African leaders, business leaders, political leaders, and civil organizations to come together and agree on how we are going to reduce on carbon emissions. That is the main goal of this summit. But now we have to ask ourselves, what is this country going to do going forward so that we can comply with the agreements of the summit? Number one, you have given a very good example. The government does not act overnight. We knew that for a long time, plastics are going to be banned. So there's someone who moved very fast and started manufacturing these bags, the bags now we are being given in the supermarket, which are not nylon. That's a very good business opportunity. Number two, let me tell you, climate change is not very negative in all aspects. It presents so many business ideas. Let me give an example of my business.
Okay.
One of the effects of climate change is prolonged heat, or the sun is more months when there's a lot of sun. How do I benefit? I'm able to do hiking, because there are some hikes we cannot do when it is raining. But now with the prolonged summit, with the prolonged temperatures, people are hiking more. Another business idea from the negative effects of climate change is when it comes to solar energy. You know, we are moving from diesel usage, like even in vehicles. People who have money, they're now starting importing the electric cars. You saw, I think on Monday, the president went to KICC.
Also yesterday.
Even yesterday,
Yes,
he was driving himself in an electric car. That's a business opportunity. Another business opportunity that can come from climate change, very basic in the village. When the temperatures are higher, there are some crops which do very well when the temperatures are higher. So what do? As a farmer back in the village, you just opt to go for those crops. Like, let me give an example of tomatoes. They do very well under high temperatures. So we need to be very innovative when it comes to that aspect. Number two, look at even in the line of solar energy. One of the aspects of one of the effects of the climate change is about carbon emissions, and so we are reducing from diesel usage. Even either we use geothermal or we go to solar. Right now, anybody who is running a solar business is doing so well, because everyone is now saying solar, you just need the sun, nothing else. No effects on actually, I think solar is the cleanest form of energy. So any person who is in the solar business right now, there are so many opportunities. Remember, even the government regulation, if you are setting up a high-rise building, you have to put solar. So all those solar panels need someone who can sell. So you as a young person, there are pros and cons of everything, and you have to just know this summit, yes, and the climate and all, where do I take the opportunities? There are so many opportunities, like some of them we have highlighted before.
Right.
Yes.
And for you as a private now company, how much of partnership do you do with the government?
I've always avoided doing business with the government. But definitely it is not possible for you to do without a business, without the government. What we normally do, when it comes to the business I do, for instance, I can walk into a parastatal. Like Parliament, let me give an example of Parliament. They take so many vehicles for hire. Right now, you remember the government from the previous regime has shifted from mostly car buying to car leasing. Because when you are leasing a car, it is very easy, because you are just paying, then the person is handling the other business, the other aspects of the car, be it maintenance, be it insurance, and all perspectives. So how we benefit, number one is, for instance, you can get those leases from the government. Number two, the government does a lot of conferences, so you also take advantage. And also, in another way, civil servants. The good thing about the government is that it always pays. So you are assured by the end of the month, the civil servants will be having money. So
it depends. I mean, earlier this year, they were complaining that they haven't been paid in months. But then anyway, now I'm curious, as CEO of a private company, your voice, when it came to even now the summit that is ongoing, how much of your voice was really heard of the private sector? Because some of these measures that can be agreed upon, how much of the private sector was really heard there? Tukiongelea vitu kama banning of the plastic waste and other strict measures that can be put, that they'll affect the businesses.
Yes,
And they'll affect the private sector. But how much input did the private sector put in for such summits, for the climate change summits?
Okay, I would say that when it comes to this summit, you should understand that this is a United Nations funded or backed up summit, whereby we should ask ourselves, what's the main theme of this summit? The main theme of this summit is whereby we are lowering the carbon emissions and also the carbon credits. You understand that the things to do with carbon credits, whereby in Kenya, which you have to lower our carbon emissions in exchange for some funding which is coming to the country. But now when you go to the issues that to do with the private sector being heard, I believe that the private sector in this country presented their own opinions over about with regards to what the effect of the climate changes and the regulations that we are passing. Let me give you an example. When it comes to nylon, when it was banned, nylon is according to research, once you ban nylon, it can never. It is not like water. Once water evaporates, it goes back to zero. But when it comes to nylon, it really has some very strong effects, negative effects on the environment. Yeah. So as a private sector, we have, remember this summit is bringing together business leaders in corporate and also the NGOs. So we presented our memoranda before, which was presented during the summit. But then remember, any international convention has to be ratified into the Kenyan laws. We cannot have any convention coming into Kenya to affect us negatively without going through Parliament. And the good thing about the 2010 Constitution is on public participation. So we'll still have an opportunity once we get the outcome and the provisions that we are having for this summit and the recommendations, we'll have an opportunity to be heard during the public participation as we ratify the laws to affect us negatively. But the bottom line is, whichever business you are doing in this country, you have to know that this war or these efforts to combat climate change is like a vehicle which has left the station. You either comply or you'll be out of business.
And now I'm curious, because again, as you talk about matters, public awareness, do business people understand when they're setting up their business? Do they understand that matters climate change? Do they understand this conversation?
I think it depends. Every business should never be very comfortable when you're running a business. I can give you an example. There's a company that was called Kodak. It's an international company, one of the most valuable companies back in the days. Do you see Kodak anymore? It is no longer there. Do you know what happened? When the CEO was given an idea in the late 90s about digital cameras, he said, "These are passing cloud." He ignored. And then after some time, Samsung took the issue, the technology, so it's called Sony, Samsung, Sony, I think there was Panasonic kind of. They took these ideas and then they moved Kodak out of the business. Right now, I can say it depends with the company, because you can see some companies like Safaricom is so good on the issues to do with green energy. What needs to be done as an individual, as a company, is that you have to always look out for threats. People are always thinking, now I'm at the top, I'm comfortable. As a business person, like even me myself, I sit down and nowadays, every day I do what we call a SWOT analysis. What are the threats of my businesses? What are the weaknesses and what are the external threats? When it comes to climate change, for instance, even as we are affected, like when you go to a national park, you are not allowed in with plastics. So what do? You have to ensure your clients have these portable bottles. Then you carry the water, either you can buy in plastic bottles or in the refillable bottles, and then you give them when they are going to the park. It is the responsibility of individual companies to come out there and do research, because some of these things will never be in black and white. They are like terms and conditions. We are told these are saying, or a meme which is on social media, that before you think you have a bad job, think about that person who writes the terms and conditions. They write, and there are so many. But what do? Even us, we just say agree. You don't care what it is, you just press agree. So the same case, businesses should be looking out for their threats, external threats. And remember that when the government decides, it has decided, some of these conventions, once we are members of the UN or the EU, and then the parliament in Kenya ratifies the conventions, we have no option but to follow. So I challenge every business to go out there and remember that climate changes is a threat that can affect them. Even there are some businesses which are affected directly, leave alone on the laws. Let me give an example. We have Lake Baringo Country Club.
Okay.
It is no longer there. It was a multi-million investment. What happened? The water levels at Lake Baringo rose. So, assuming you are running that business or you want to put up a resort, you have to ask yourself, in the next 30 years, what are the, what effects will my business be suffering from when it comes to climate changes?
Actually, I love the fact that you actually brought that question up, because I was heading there.
Yes.
And as the fact that you spoke about matters responsibility and challenge. As a Eliza Group,
Yes.
you transport, let's say, tourists from either Nairobi all the way to probably Diani.
Yes.
Along the way, you emit fuel emissions.
Yes.
A lot of them.
Yes.
I'm curious, I mean, the fact that we now have e-mobility,
Yes.
which is really trying to get rid of all these fuel emissions,
Yes.
You know, in the country, will you be heading to e-mobility? Will you choose that as an option?
For me, I would go for that anytime.
And as you also answer, will you now start to partner with you know, companies that you know, maybe even charge the electric, the batteries, you know, all that, even manufacturing of these electric vehicles and electric buses?
About 2 weeks ago, we got a proposal from a company which from China, which wants to import to Kenya buses which are electric buses. You have seen even some companies like Super Metro, Metro Trans, they have buses, electric buses.
Yeah.
Right now, that is the line we are going into. When it comes to the car hire, like for me, when I'm buying in a small car, it has to what we call eco mode. Eco-friendly is whereby once you press that button, the vehicle automatically reduces the fuel consumption, and in exchange, okay, the engine gets a bit, it emits less energy, but you still get to your destination, but emitting less carbon. But what I challenge the government is regards to do with taxation. All of us I would be very happy having to import a car that I'm just charging, and then number two, having to use a car that is not even damaging the environment. Because anyway, all of us are feeling the heat of climate change. But now the challenge comes in when you come to taxation. Right now, try to import a Tesla, for instance. The taxes are so crazy in this country. So what you can do, and maybe this is an idea which I can present to the government, that when it comes to importing anything that is contributing towards the environment and climate management, be it solar panels, be it electric cars, be it electric motorbikes, let them lower the taxation so that all of us can buy. But for me, I would, at any given time, be able to import those cars which are very, very friendly in terms of consumption, or purely electric cars. And also I can challenge the banks. Maybe they can opt for 100% or 95% financing when it comes to those electric cars. I would opt for that anytime. Yes.
Will it be cheaper for you now using purely e-mobility rather than fuel cars?
Let me tell you, it will be very cheaper. Just 3 years ago, a small car we were doing full tank at 3,500. Last week I decided to do this, to test the same car for a full tank. It's a long time since I did a full tank. The cost was 6,900. So we are already paying double. The good thing about a well-maintained electric car is that not only the fuel and even the maintenance. You know, to run a diesel engine or a petrol engine, there are so many aspects that you need to. There are so many aspects of what is being damaged as the engine runs. But when it comes to electric, it's very easy. So not only oil, not only fuel, but even the maintenance will be very cheap. So for me, I would go for it anytime.
Right.
Yes.
Your last words when it comes to now, even moving forward, the kind of summits that we'll have,
yes,
the kind of effect that climate change is really having,
yes,
when it comes to now the businesses in Kenya.
Yes. Let me say there are positives and the negatives of the climate change. When it comes to the negatives, number one is about things to do with when there's flooding, as I told you. So many businesses are affected. We can go to Lake Baringo and there are so many people who have closed shop because of the climate change. When it comes to flooding, it has, even Lake Naivasha is affected. I was in Lake Naivasha some months ago, and the water levels are so high that some people no longer sell wares like they were selling. Go to Lake Nakuru National Park. They had to close the gate on the Nakuru side because the water levels are so high, the gates have been submerged. So there are so many negative effects of the climate change towards businesses. Even to do with insurance. You know, although it has not been fully affected in the Kenyan market when it comes to insurance premiums. You have to pay higher if you live in a place whereby there is a risk of climate change effects. Also, lastly, I can mention things to do with the cost of even food. Like for me, my employees eat. So when there is a shortage of food, like I can give you an example of where I come from, Deya in Limuru. People planted, but right now they have not harvested. In my area, so many people don't have maize because what they did, the rains ran for 3 months. And then they had planted maize, which is growing in 6 months or in 5 months. So what happened? Just at the mature time, the rain stopped. So the people are suffering. There are no potatoes because they had even, including seedlings. So when the rains came, they had nothing to plant. So those are negative effects.
Do you feel like now some of these farmers should be advised by the government, proper research? They're told that probably in the next few months,
yes,
maybe kutakuwa na mvua, so maybe usipande. Is there in some of these areas, for example, like Limuru where you're vying?
Yes, I totally agree with you because it is very, very unfortunate that you have used the little money you had. Remember, we had, for a long time, there was no sun. So, there was no rains. So when the rains came, what happened? You used your little savings, or even you called your son in Nairobi, send me something, we plant. You went and bought those seedlings, you planted. If you had been advised, there are people in the same, even in the same land, the same place. This person is harvesting maize in plenty because he did 3 months maize. The next person is not harvesting anything. So I think the government needs to intervene because normally we use the seasons. Initially we knew there was the long lanes which were running from around February all the way to April. That's no longer the case. We used to know that short lanes are now during the end of the year from October, November. We knew that July is cold. You have seen these memes. What is July doing in August? Those are not just, let us not take them just as memes. Those are the effects of climate change. And so the government...
Even as we wrap up,
yes.
El Niño is coming next month. It's going to definitely affect...
It's coming next month. But do you know why people will be reluctant? Because number one, look at the people in Deya. They have lost their crops. Now you expect them to think, this is gambling now. Do we go back to our pockets and this more money? So I think the government should set up a serious...
do these people do they trust the government now when they're told El Niño is coming?
Do you know the funny thing? And I'm not holding brief for the government, and I'm not complaining.
Okay.
But sometimes you see as these people wait for it to happen, they tell you, once it rains on a Monday, Tuesday they issue a notice. By then this week it will be raining. You wonder, the government channels a lot of money into these parastatals. Can they do their job honestly? Okay. They need to tell us prior in advance that in this month, the rain is going to be there for 2 months. So if you are planting any crop, let it be crops which will be growing in 2 months. Oh, yes. So because there's so much money we would have made if we planted crops which are in 2 months. But the rains in Limuru, for instance, where I come from, was a blessing in disguise, and somehow it was a source of problem because those people, they had no money. Right now they have planted, the maize never matured. We only harvested beans, most of the people in the village.
Okay.
What can you do with beans? You just eat a few days, it's over. You are back to square one. So the government is to really get a department, serious department, very professional, that they can pretell about weather conditions and climate changes in the maybe 6 months prior, so that we can even save our farmers from all these losses that they're incurring.
And hopefully they're listening this particular morning.
I believe they are listening.
The head of this particular parastatals.
Yes.
El Niño is coming in a month. Business persons, are you prepared for the climate effects that it is going to have? Robert Githira, CEO of Eliza Group. Asante sana manze.
Karibu sana, nashukuru sana.
I've definitely learned a lot. Nasema kando ya tent tuongee biashara nyingine.
Biashara tutaongea. And let me tell you, maybe as we wind up, that young people, there are so many opportunities. And yesterday I posted something on Facebook, and this is what they should think. Even if I challenge you, ask yourself, what will you be doing at 60 years of age?
What will I be doing at 60
years? At 60 years of age. If you answer that question, you start looking at life differently from...
Probably farming somewhere in...
Probably.
Farming somewhere.
I don't do... That's guesswork. You are guessing. I need to... Me, at 60 years, I'll still be running Eliza to us. So it's a challenge to everybody. You start taking steps from today.
Asante sana, Robert. What will you be doing at 60 years? But then now, what will you be doing